Okay, here we go. So again, welcome to the 6-week Introduction to Mindfulness course. So I'm Joanne Staccato. I have been teaching mindfulness now for about 4 or so years, but I'm undertaking a teacher training to really make sure that what I'm teaching is in integrity with the teachings that have been passed down, and we'll talk more about the history of mindfulness. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about what brought me to mindfulness, and then what brought me to want to teach it. So I, as most of you know, I was raised in a pretty dysfunctional family, alcoholism, abuse, all of that. And so at an early age, I started looking for answers to life and to end pain, basically, to end the suffering that was happening. I took a lot of it personally, the suffering. I thought it was all about me. It wasn't until my adult years that I was able to recognize and learn that really it wasn't about me. It was about, the dysfunctions of alcoholism and that type of thing. So I started on the path of trying to find a peaceful and easy way, the right way to, live life. And that led me to a lot of different practices. I got exposed to mindfulness for the first time in its Buddhist tradition, and I'll talk more about the history of that in a minute. Back in my early 20s, I was really struggling within my relationship, and I was asking a friend, I was at a retreat center and asked a friend, if you really wanted to just get to the core, peel off all the everything and really learn how to live life, where would you go, what would you do, what would be the modality? And so they said, oh, for sure, go to a Vipassana retreat. So never heard of it, didn't know what it was, but it was happening within I think 6 days from when they talked to me about it, and it was a 10-day silent meditation retreat, and you were meditating 10 hours a day. And my experience with meditation that far had been pretty much, I've done guided visualizations, walking yourself into your happy place and that type of thing. But never had I done anything where it was just really about being present with what is and turning the gaze inward to the direct experience of just what was happening. And so I had no capacity in my mind to sit still. I was actively using drugs and alcohol at the time, and just had not done, I had worked some on my family of origin situation, but not much. I was trying to find my way. And so I went and threw myself into this retreat, and it was astounding. It completely literally blew my mind in a lot of good ways. But because I hadn't done the healing work around my family of origin, and I was still using drugs and alcohol, there was a part of it that was it didn't work well for me. I needed a little bit of psychological support for what I saw when I finally, looked at the contents of my mind. There's a saying in this tradition that when you do a long-term retreat like that for the first time, sometimes you can go running screaming from the hall because you get a chance to see what's happening inside the mind. So it wasn't for quite a few years after that, and I had gotten into recovery by that time and started doing the recovery work, that another friend recommended another retreat center that had taken the best of this tradition, the insight mindfulness tradition and the Vipassana tradition, and coupled it with psychological support. Because in the Western cultures, it's a little bit different here as far as what we grapple with in the inner world. And so within a few months of getting exposed to that particular retreat center, which is Spirit Rock Meditation Center down outside of San Rafael, my practice and my recovery just blossomed in so many good ways. And one of the big things that made the difference was the attitude with which to meet my direct experience. And we'll talk more about this because it's really an integral part of a mindfulness practice, and that's meeting ourselves with an attitude of kindness and compassion. So, so I've been practicing now for many, many years, and just want to do a time check here. Practicing for many years, and then I had the passing of my dog happen. She was my friend for 15 years, and for those of you that were here at the time that I came and gave a presentation here at All Staff one time, you'll know the story of my dog Shyla. I was able to companion her in a pretty conscious and loving way, even though it was like the most difficult thing that I was experiencing in my life. I was losing my best friend, and it was really difficult, but I was able to do it. And so afterwards, I wrote a book about the experience and about the tools that I had recognized allowed me to be able to help her through her situation and help me through my situation. And unbeknownst to me at the time, one of those tools, which was mindfulness, had started exploding in popularity here in America and abroad. So write the book, go out and start doing talks on it, and then all of a sudden, all this research is coming in about how outstanding mindfulness is for a lot of different things, in particularly stress reduction and stress-related illnesses. So I didn't know that was happening. So I started teaching. That began my teaching career at that point, was to help bring these tools to people that may be suffering with stress and anxiety, difficulties in relationships, whatever it was. If I could bring it to them, that's where my heart was at. And so that's what started me in that process. I wrote my second book, it just got published just before I started here with the California Hope Project, within a few months before that. And that was basically a culmination of the teachings that I had done up until that point. It became like a curriculum to the courses and the curriculum that I had developed over those years. So that's kind of what brought me here, and my heart is really about helping people get some relief from the suffering that can arise from a painful relationship with the inner world, the inner self, with a mind. There's a lot of freedom that can come from a mindfulness practice, and we'll get a chance to taste that over the next 6 weeks. So that's kind of what brought me to this point. And so the course, if you did receive the emails, then we know that the next 6 weeks are going to be about an introduction to, mindfulness through breath awareness, through body, and then working with emotions and working with thoughts. So there's these different realms that we engage with in our direct experience with mindfulness. And this will all make a better sense as we go along and we talk about the definitions of mindfulness and its history and all of that. So just want to set a few ground rules for our time together. I'm sure I'm not going to share anything that you don't already know and practice in the work that you do here at Lake FRC. But of course, I want to keep what we're doing here confidential into this space so that we can feel as confident and easy as we can to be able to share, the authentic experience that's happening for us. And I can tell you from my own experience that the more authentic, and my experience as teaching as well, not only my own personal experience, but my experience as teaching, is that the more authentic you can get with yourself, not necessarily with each other, but with yourself, the greater the transformation that can happen in this process. So I invite you to really be willing to stretch and open to that. Can everybody pretty much agree that they will be willing to keep what we share here in here? Yeah? Okay, good. Good. Let's see. The other thing that can be really helpful in creating safety and a good transformation is what we call, we want to refrain from doing what's known as crosstalk and or trying to fix and solve other people's situations, right? Is everybody familiar with that term, crosstalk? Yeah. So it's basically about allowing each person to have their own experience without feeling that we need to solve it or fix it for them. Because sometimes just having the experience in the space can create the transformation that's needed. The other thing that can happen too is that it'll pull you away from your own experience if you're focused on somebody else, right? So it'll pull you out of this direct experience that we're going to work together to cultivate. Does that feel okay? Any questions on that? Good. And the final one, and that is to invite you to make a commitment starting now for the next 6 weeks to show up, attend the courses themselves, and to commit to doing the assignments that you're given throughout the week from when we're not together. They're really about, maybe 15 minutes, maybe 20. If you want to make them longer, you can. But I know how busy everybody's schedule is, and I know sometimes just the thought of having another commitment come on top of your already very busy schedules can create some unease and maybe anxiety. So I just want to reassure you at this point that most everybody that undertakes a mindfulness practice and commits to doing the practice on a daily basis actually discovers that they have more time and more spaciousness around their schedule. And I'm not sure how that happens, but it does, and it's really a gift to feel a little breathing room in the busyness of our lives, and that's a lot of what we're going to do here together is to create a little bit of spaciousness around our experience so that we can find more meaning, really, more opportunities for joy and meaning in our lives. Because sometimes we just move so quickly through things that we don't even get a chance to experience them, much less savor them, particularly the good things. So I invite you to commit as best as you can to making the practice. And the important thing is that the more that you do this, the more you're going to experience the benefits of the process. This is an experiential course. We're going to learn a little bit about the concepts of it, but it's really about doing it. So, and then just to let you know that I'm here, I'm on this journey with you, right? So I practice, mindfulness is practiced for life. I'm not, there's not this sense of, Joanne has all the answers to all these things. No, this is a journey together. So just know that I'm here sharing this journey with you, and I'll be doing the practices that you do at home during the times that you do them. And that didn't come out right. So I have my regular practice, right? But I will actually be doing the practice with you. So if this week we're going to work with mindfulness of breath, I'll be at home doing mindfulness of breath with you. So we're here together. So the next thing I'd like to do is to find out who is here in the sense of, I know we almost all know each other, but in the sense of what pulls you to take this course at this time? What is your hope of getting something, what is the hope of what you get out of the course? And so what I'd like to do is just start with your name and your just say which community you live in, if it's Kelseyville or Lakeport or whatever. And then if you've had any experience with meditation or mindfulness, and then what your intentions are, what you're hoping to get out of the course. And if you don't mind, I'd like to just jot down just some notes about your intentions, because I like to be able to tailor the teachings to what it is that is up for you. So if it's about relieving anxiety, I want to know that so that I can really tailor that for that. Does that feel okay? Do you mind if okay, so I'm going to jot down a few things. who would like to start?
I'll start.
Oh, Jessica.
I'm Jessica. I live in Kelseyville, and yoga has been a practice of mine for a long time, and with increasing seriousness and commitment. And